In the following pages I shall prove that the entire psychology of man can only be understood with reference to the science of navigation. Quite right, interposed Ginger. I remember a 35-year-old patient whose prepubertal son was having recurrent nightmares in which he would push a raspberry up his left nostril and run into the middle of the lounge shouting "Pelmets." This caused such embarrassment that his father punished him by making him stand on a window ledge holding a whole punnet of raspberries. They became so heavy that he lost his balance and fell down the face of a huge white cliff in the shape of a gendarme's nose, after which he woke up to find himself inexplicably in the sea at the bottom of a cliff. In later discussions with the boy, it became apparent to him that the raspberries represented raspberries and the cliff was in fact a cliff. But to the psychoanalyst, the cliff is a glaring symbol of a navigational fetish. Man's life is divided into two phases. 1. Childhood, and 2. Navigation. Childhood is divided into the following stages. 1.1. Heavy petting. 1.2. Coital navigation. 1.3. Embryonic navigation. 1.4. Fetal navigation. 1.5. Neonatal navigation. 1.6. Infantile navigation. 1.7. The prepubertal navigational spurt. 1.8. Pubertal navigational day, and 1.9. Post-pubertal navigation, the beginning of the marine period, the onset of Regenwettertraum. A footnote. There would appear to be no equivalent in our language for this Viennese peasant word. The nearest would, I suppose, be soggy dreams. At this point, we come to the longer phase, Navigation 2, which we may divide with Aesculapius, Galen, Pantagali, Nietzsche, Marx, Len Dayton, and Hitler's dog into 2.1 at sea, 2.2 on land, 2.3 in the air, 2.4 other places. 2.1 navigation at sea may be divided into the following broad categories: 2.1 alpha on top of the sea, 2.1 beta under it, 2.1 gamma quite close to the sea, but not actually getting your feet wet. Schul Wasserfußbekleidung nicht gestellt. Footnote. This Viennese student pork butcher's slang word literally means, my God, there goes a clever psychoanalyst. It is also an allusion to 12 Bream in My Wellingtons by Horatio Nelson, Admiral, a puzzling title which Freud was later brilliantly to interpret as an obvious apostolic complex, in which Nelson himself plays the Christ figure, Bream representing the early Christian fish symbol, and at the same time an overt corruption of the word dream, quite common in navigational dreams. He was also clearly in love with an as yet unborn military rubber fetishist. Freud intended later to expand this footnote into 12 volumes, provisionally entitled Generals, Admirals, Oedipus, Vagina Envy, Fish, Christ, Masturbation, and all sorts of other things like cucumbers, radishes, figs, donkeys, other people's bottoms, gallbladder fixations, teeth, snow, hash, uppers, downers, Bakelite underwear, sports commentators, pole vaulting, and the great Vaseline boom. But sadly, this was not to be. He died, leaving Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber to translate it into the Broadway smash hit Kiss My Twat, an all-goat musical comedy. Beneath Biggles, that's damned clever, he hypnotised, and read on. In relation to this, I remember a 29-year-old female patient whose exactly adolescent son was having recurrent dreams about flying. In one dream, which he was able to recall particularly vividly because he was on a youth hosteling holiday in the Lake District, and his red-haired companion in the bunk above him had fallen asleep, dropping a navigational handbook, which spiraled down and struck him on the temple, causing the rapid onset of wakefulness. A fictional aviator called Bigglesworth and his companions are attempting to escape from a Fokker wolf, which is pursuing them and shooting at them. They are hit somewhere in the back of the plane, and Algy, one of Biggles' companions, goes to inspect the damage. It is not serious. After a routine exchange with a wing commander in the rear compartment of the plane, he returns to the pilot's cabin to report that all is well. There, his group captain is having trouble with his flying jacket, but with Algy's help manages to sort it out and escape the pursuing Fokker at the same time. A typical dream recall of a particularly exciting episode in an adventure story for boys, or so it would seem. Let us look at the dream more closely. The first thing we notice is that the description is full of overt references to changes in direction. The plane banked sharply to the left. The plane lurched suddenly. Biggles swerved to avoid the pursuing Fokker, an unmistakable symptom of navigational obsessions. Note also the use of zoological terminology in their navigational exchanges with one another. Old bison, old tapir, and even old guillemot, clearly indicating a yearning for a pre-rational animal state of existence in which navigation was not yet distinguishable from simply running around. The boy patient clearly identifies himself with the minor character Ginger, who is excluded from the adventure because he is navigationally inadequate. At this point, Ginger stopped reading. Ginger, he thought? That's me. Inadequate? What a bally awful tone, don't you know, what ho, old chap? He slid back the Bakelite window and grinned through steel lips as he watched the book hurtle in a plinth-defying spiral towards an angry North Sea. Clop! I had been struck on the head, causing rapid wakefulness. The Anglia was now parked outside Thraxted's fish shop, with my mother inside, engaged in the purchase of haddock, and my father saying, "You've been bloody reading again." "I haven't." "Well, what's this in my hand?" "Oh, it's the Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud, probably his most original work, in which he discovered a way of exploring the unconscious and found that neurotic symptoms are like dreams in that they are a product of conflict and compromise between the conscious and unconscious states. He was able to... "Is it?" he said, as he thumbed through the pages. "What's this?" As a little girl, she remembered her older brother and his friends asking her to remove her undergarments and performing cartwheels, thus displaying her genitalia to their curious gaze. In later life she... "I've got the haddock. What were you saying? What's that book?" "Nothing." The glove compartment opened and closed. "Nothing, just a road map." Who's Freud, then?" "He's an expert on navigation. Very interesting. His theories of navigation, you see, longitude, latitude, that sort of thing." "Ah, well, that's enough of that. Let's get back to Mrs. Richards with this haddock." "Right." Quite a lot happened over the next few years. A disastrous sexual experiment with Rita Blake, my first love affair with another boy, stuffing snails into a gatepost with a net hoy, the hen-stealing nuns, pig-shit Freeman, Miss Chamberlain's 3 consecutive head girls pregnant, my questions about ejaculation to a biology master, Anthony Blonde in a book called Health and Hygiene for Secondary School Girls, written by myself and my brother, Albert the groundsman, me holding hands with Mark Collins in a math class, the couple copulating in the French library, painting John Wilder black, Who Knows Eskimo Nell, Monsieur le Bogue va pu, Purple Smoke, Little Boy's Eardrums, This Is a Raid, and elderly spinsters wanking off birthday cakes. But such trivia needs no elaboration. One childhood is much like another. Amateur psychologists who think it clever to explain the character of the later man for a jumble of largely fictitious memories can ferret for their filth in other people's autobiographies. They have opened the wrong book.